Hello, friends. This message brought to you from my Jeep in my driveway. Why, you might ask? Well, I mentioned Friday in my shorter video that I posted on Facebook that on my first week back, after missing 3 months due to medical issues, my first week back, so excited to come back, hang out with folks, begin getting into the flow and rhythm of ministry once again. That first week back, me and 3 others, I contracted, along with the 3 others, the coronavirus. So 4 of your staff at the river, me included, got the coronavirus. Now, I think for most of us, it felt like a flu, not very pleasant, but not horrible for us. And so we've been on lockdown and quarantine. And although I'm feeling much better, my symptoms are for the most part gone, I'm still in quarantine for a couple more days. And so it's either we record this teaching in my basement where I've been living for the past 8 days, not a good place to record a sermon, or we go sit outside. It's too cold to sit out there. It's low 40s. Or we sit in the Jeep. So here we are. This message brought to you from my Jeep. Glad you could join me today. I'm predicting, I'm going to play prophet, that there will be a day when we gather together again face to face. That'll be a good day. Last week, we finished up our 3-year series, 115 sermons on the Gospel of John. It was kind of an anticlimactic beginning, as you might agree. You know, we had a lot of fanfare up front and for years. And to end kind of in a video recording was a bit of a bummer for me, but oh well, it's where we're at in the year 2020 with the pandemic. So, oh well. What we're going to do now is we're going to begin a series that we've done before, but it's been a while, that takes you and me through what is the river to be about. What is our calling and our purpose and our mission, right? We've been saying forever, if you got a pulse, you got issues, you know that. We also say, if you got a pulse, you got a purpose. And our purpose, collective as a church, is different than maybe that church or that church. And so it will behoove us to look at our mission, our vision, and our values, and some of the things that the Lord has called us to be about, so that we can be about it. So today, we're going to look at our mission statement, kind of that foundational piece that any organization has upon which everything else is built. And so if we were together, I would ask you, what is our mission statement? And I would pause, and I would look. And some of you, with much enthusiasm, would scream, belong, believe, become. And I'd be like, I'm so glad you know that, but that's wrong. That is not our mission statement. That is our vision statement, the thing we see us becoming. Our mission statement is much shorter than that. Well, I guess it's not. It's also 3 words. And it's something that I haven't taught on or reminded you about since September of 2017. So we're past due to look at our mission statement. A mission statement for any organization, certainly the River included, is a statement that explains why that organization exists. Not so much what it does, but why does it exist? So, to get at our mission statement, I want to go back to 1643 in England, when in London, Parliament asked the church leaders of the day to sequester themselves, put some energy, thought, and time into the question, what is the church to be about? And what came out of that in 1643, after 5 years of labor, is what we now know to be the Westminster Confession. Hundreds of years old, and yet this Westminster Confession gives us a foundation for our mission statement. They approached their confession in a series of question and answers. And question number 1, what is the chief end of humanity? Why does humanity exist? And the answer to that question, 3 words, is our mission statement, and I'm wondering if you remember it. The chief end of humanity. Well, it's a big question, quite frankly. They spent 5 years wrestling with it. What is the purpose of humanity? Why do men and women exist? I'll tell you what they didn't say. They didn't say the main reason men and women exist is to serve the poor. They didn't say to vote in good politicians. They didn't say to start education system. They didn't say to clothe those who are naked. They didn't say any of those wonderful and good things. What they said, the first and foundational thing, the answer to the question, why do humans exist? What is the chief end of humanity? Their answer, and our mission statement, to glorify God. That's it. 3 words that has a world of meaning. It's our mission statement. And so when I ask you, what is the River's mission statement? You can, with gusto, say, to glorify God. That is why we exist as a congregation. Everything we do by way of our vision and our values and the work we enact and the things we choose to do, the things we choose not to do, centers around those 3 words, the words that the Westminster Confession Boys put together back in 1643, to glorify God. So there it is. Now, my phone tells me that we're 6 minutes, 40 seconds in, and maybe that's all you need today. Maybe you can take it from there. But if you're like me, you might need a little more. It's nice to know that the mission is to glorify God. The next question that begs to be asked is, what does that mean? What does it mean? And so I'm going to spend the rest of our time together while I sit in my Jeep, while my neighbor over there sweeps her driveway and looks at me and thinks I'm crazy because I'm talking to my phone for about 40 minutes in my driveway. While she thinks I'm crazy, and while you sit there, I'm going to expound upon the question, what does it mean to glorify God? And I've got a list of things that come straight from the Bible. Some of them you might gravitate towards, some of them you might not. So find the ones that resonate with you so that you can glorify God. It's a journey, not a destination of perfection. You want to glorify God until the day you die. So let's go to 1 Chronicles 16 to begin answering the question, what does it mean to glorify God? The author says, give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make known among the nations what he has done. Here it is. Sing to him, sing praise to him, tell of all his wonderful works and acts. Glorify his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. And the psalmist kind of expounds upon what the author of Chronicles, 1 Chronicles, says in Psalm 96, verse 1 and 2. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. Sing to the Lord. Praise his name. Proclaim his salvation day after day. What does it mean to glorify God? In part, you better say that at home. In part, it means to sing his praise. Now, at the River, we've always had a high value of worshiping the Lord via song. And I've told the story many times. When I was newish in my maturing in my faith at Central Michigan University, I began going to a group of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. They basically did 2 things in their hour-long meeting. They would worship, and then they would have the word. And I have told you that for the longest of times, I would go a half hour late because I hated singing, because I had no model in my growing up years of men singing unto the Lord, right? I've told you the story that in the church I grew up going to, the men would stand up with their hymn books open and their mouths shut. Hymn books open and mouths shut. And I hear the high pitched voices of the women. And when I was a boy, I could sing like that. But when I got older and my voice got a little deeper, although it's not too deep, I had a hard time hitting that range. I didn't know how to sing, and I would look at the men in my world around, right? And none of them would sing. And so I learned that singing was woman's work. And so when my brother and his buddies wrote me in to go into this Christian group my freshman year of college, I skipped the first half hour because I didn't want to sing like them. But one day, I actually went to the group early, and I discovered something. That although I needed to learn how to sing, the singing unto the Lord was awesome. I noticed when I was singing, even though it was off key, something in my gut did wonderful things. It felt good to sing unto the Lord. And what has happened since that year in 1989, my freshman year in college, is a love of worship that has only grown. And so when we started the River back in 2004, I knew that we needed to do one of two things on Sunday morning: the Word, that's my part, and worship. And so we've had some stellar worship pastors on our team from the beginning of time, and we will always value singing. Because singing worship songs is one way to glorify God. Now, it's at this point in time where the teaching takes a little twist from the other times that I've spoken on this. I used to say something like, now, how many of you don't like singing? Yeah. And then I would say, tough. You have to sing and worship. But a good friend of mine, you know, sent me a wonderful email the last time I talked about this. And he or she, you know who you are, said in that email, hey, I don't necessarily love to sing, but I love to worship the Lord. There are other ways to worship the Lord. And in this email, she or he let me know that the way I'd been communicating might be a little off scripturally, and it might be a little bit of oppressive. And I thought about that, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. As it's been said, there are many ways to skin a cat. And so maybe skinning the cat of glorifying God by way of singing is not your way to skin that cat. Meow. There are other ways to do that. And so, if the singing unto the Lord doesn't really resonate deep in your soul, well, that's okay. I would love for you to, maybe stretch yourself like I stretched myself. It would be good. But don't feel any pressure that you have to love that. Let me give you another few options, ways that you can glorify God to fulfill the mission of the Westminster Confession and the River. The author of Chronicles would go on to say, in 1 Chronicles 16, ascribe. Now, this is an active verb. It's not passive. It means do something, take action. Ascribe to the Lord, all you families of nations. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. So the word ascribe is a bit different than the verb we saw in the former verse, which was sing. Ascribe means give unto, write about it, tell about it, talk about it. So for those of you who are like me way back when in 1989, if you hate worship, it's just not your cup of tea. If you don't want to sing because you think you sound bad, if you think you sound bad, that's okay. It says make a joyful noise. It doesn't say be perfect in singing, but that's okay. If you don't want to be someone who sings with gusto on a regular basis, I want to ask that you would ascribe to the Lord all the goodness due him. So one of the ways that you can do this is in your prayer journal, maybe list out the 26 letters of the alphabet. And with each letter, praise the Lord with something, with a word that starts with that corresponding letter. So A, God, you are awesome. B, God, you are beautiful. Take some time to write out and ascribe to the Lord that which is good to him. And that is a way that you can glorify God. Maybe if singing is not your cup of tea, maybe you could write a poem to God in your prayer time, in your journal. So far we've got two things that we can do to glorify God: sing and ascribe. Let's get another verb in there, another way that we can glorify God. It's similar. It's the next verse after that ascribe verse. It's 1 Chronicles 16:29. Bring is our verb for the day on this one, number 3. Bring an offering and come before him. Worship the Lord in splendor of his holiness. Right there in that verse, the the concept of bringing to the Lord. Excuse me one second. Cheers. Bring to the Lord an offering is connected in that verse with the word worship. Worship the Lord in splendor and holiness comes on the heels of the admonition to bring an offering and come before him. And so, a third way that you and I can glorify God is with our tithes and our offerings. Now, I have to say, River Church, you've been tremendous during these 18 years of COVID. Seems that way, doesn't it? Many of you have continued your generous offerings and your tithes unto the Lord while we have not been meeting. Checks have been coming in the mail. Many of you have dropped them off. Hold on. And so that is a wonderful way that many of you have been glorifying the Lord. Some of you have been incredibly generous with your gifts and your offerings to our homeless community. I've seen some of you offer warm clothing to our homeless friends. I've seen some of you offer foods. I've seen some of you offer your time and your energy to our homeless friends. This offering of your tithes and your offerings is a wonderful way for us to glorify the Lord. So let me even broaden it out. Those are 3 specific ways: sing, ascribe, or bring. But here we go. This is what the Apostle Paul would say in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. He would say, whatever you do. Now that broadens it out immensely, doesn't it? Whatever you do, do it all for the glory of the Lord. Whatever you do it all for the glory of the Lord. So if you're a plumber, be a plumber for the Lord. If you're a teacher, be a teacher for the Lord. If you're a bricklayer, lay bricks for the glory of the Lord. Be people who do whatever it is you've been called to do it with integrity and honesty and humility and excellence. And these things bring God glory. Whatever you do it all for the glory of God. I'm thinking of one of my buddies in the Old Testament from the book of Judges, the 6th chapter, Gideon. I think I just mentioned him last week or the week before. Gideon was scared and hiding, right? He was nervous because the Midianites were oppressing the people. But God looked at him and says, go in the strength you have. Friends, you have been given strength like Gideon. Whatever it is, go in that strength and glorify God with it. The Apostle Paul would tell us in Romans 12, offer yourselves as a living sacrifice. So whatever you do it for the glory of God. Now get this. We, you and me, we, as individuals and as a church family, have an obligation to others, even over our own rights. In this political climate, people are clamoring for that which they want. I want, my candidate, me. But I'm telling you, sorry. COVID, sorry. We have an obligation to others, even over our own rights. Whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Charles Spurgeon, arguably one of the best preachers the world has ever known, died a long time ago. He said this and is recorded: the eyes of the world are intended to be checks upon the church. That is to say, the world, the people who aren't a part of God's church, aren't a part of God's kingdom yet, look at the church and should supply kind of a checks and balance for us. And I've been seeing that on Twitter and Facebook, as the church has miscomported herself during this political climate. And I've seen many non-Christian folks say, hey, I thought the church was supposed to be about mercy and kindness and all that. That is beautiful. Sorry. When the world provides a check on us, it reminds us that we are to be about God's work. We are to be about whatever it is we do, glorifying God with how we go about that work. And so we can allow the outside world, as Spurgeon says, to be a check upon us to make sure that we are glorifying God with our lives. Well, what is the chief end of humanity? It's to glorify God. And the Westminster Confession goes on to say, to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. Now, what a beautiful thing for us to hang our hats upon. When we glorify God, there is a joy within the soul that rises up that lasts forever. What is the chief end of humanity? To glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. So many, maybe you included, have seen Christianity and faith in Jesus as drudgery. But I'm telling you, when you walk with the Lord, it is delight before it is duty. It is joy before it is labor. And so maybe there needs to be some tweaking in your walking with the Lord. Right? James, Jesus' half-brother, would say, come near to God, and He will come near to you. Come near to God, and He will come near to you. Maybe there needs to be a nearness in your world simply by you creating space to glorify God in the ways that we've mentioned, and maybe other ways. Maybe you need to begin with these words from Jesus in Matthew 6, verse 33. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you as well. To glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. John Piper, a pastor at Bethlehem Baptist in Minnesota, he came up with a concept known as Christian hedonism. And it was meant to kind of correct some of our faulty thinking where we have approached faith for too long in the church as, I gotta suck it up and drudge it out. He says, no, there's a concept of Christian hedonism. Hedonism is kind of eat, drink, and be merry. Well, you put the word Christian in front of it, and you do that unto the Lord. He said there is a hedonistic feel when you're walking with the Lord. That is to say, there's a deep-rooted joy when we walk closely with the Lord, and walking closely with the Lord is meant to be an enjoyable endeavor. It was not meant to simply be drudgery. It was meant to be joy. And so, what's the chief end of you? To glorify God. And when you glorify God, you will enjoy Him forever. Well, that's week 1 in a longer-ish series that'll take us probably to Advent, explaining what it is we believe. So, friends, what is our mission statement? To glorify God. Now you know. Won't be long, and we'll be back face to face again, I'm sure. Peace. Have a good week.